We're back here today, and what we're dealing with right now is the 24T. We've disassembled the slip clutch here. We got the actual slip clutch out, and we've had some issues with the pins. As you can see here, this spring is totally shot. The other one was completely collapsed. And here's the replacements we picked up at the local hardware store. It's a pretty stiff spring. You see it's a little heavier coil than the originals. And the two pins, like I said before, you could use a grade 8 bolt, cut the head and then the threaded part off so you have just the smooth part of the bolt. And as long as it's grade 8, they work great for the overrun pins for the 24Ts. And you just want to take and just sand off the edges real good, get them nice and smooth, and they work great. Now on this, we had one pin that was stuck. On the back side of this overrun clutch, there's little holes. As you can see, I'm sticking my little hook here down inside that hole. You can put a punch down in there and drive these pins out if they're stuck. And same way goes for the other side. You see there's a hole there. Now down inside of here, setting this up without getting my fingers pinched. Sometimes it's easier to take that shield off by unbolting it on the sides, but we're trying to work with the shield because most of us farmers are shortcutters. So anyways, always check your brass bushing, make sure it's good. Before you assemble this back onto here, there's no grease fitting in here, so you want to wipe a good amount of grease, because the only time this really slips is when you shut your PTO off and it overruns just a little bit. Anyways, down inside these holes where the pins go, we reached down here with a hook and we pulled the old springs back up out. We're going to clean these holes out. We're going to reinstall these pins here because they're in pretty good shape. We're going to sand them up, clean them up, put the new springs in the bottom, and then we'll put the clutch back on here. And it's really critical that those pins work, because you can see right here, you see the wear on this? It's wear on the step because the one pin wasn't pushing out into the socket correctly. You can see here it wore this at a taper. One pin was doing its job. You can see here and here. It's starting to wear this one a little bit of a bevel. But if you keep the pins outward, you will never strip this unit out of a 24T. And there's something else that helps. When you merge this piece down here with the clutch up here, when the two of them sandwich together, behind this collar that goes on here, we now have some washers to put in between here and this overrun clutch, and it pushes it tighter to the slip clutch, which keeps the play to a minimum, so it keeps these pins into those grooves on this clutch really tight. Now the clutches, they should slip. If the baler's been set in more than 4 or 5 years, you see this one's right full, the clutches look good, but this thing is rusted fast. And you're probably going to break some parts, and when the plunger stop comes up, it's going to you might chip a gear in there because this thing can't slip. Okay, you want to take it apart, sand both pieces of the steel, clean up the brake pads a little bit, and the center disc, and just get everything polished up, put it back together. And everybody asks me for a torque setting. What I use is, there should be about a dime's width gap between each one of the springs. Is about the proper torque that I use on them. And if you get a spring that's broken, you got to replace it. Get the correct spring on there. For heavier horsepower tractors, there are some guys that run bigger horse. You might want to put that spring just a tad bit tighter. Guys that are running like lower horsepower tractors, you want probably like a quarter's width gap in the spring. You want the clutch to be able to slip. It shouldn't stall your tractor. It should just make it labor down hard. Because these balers are direct drive balers. If you take the shear bolt out of this with no hay in the baler, you could turn your PTO on and it will still drive the baler, because this is a direct drive and the flywheel just assists the plunger pushing through. There's shear pins there for when the plunger hits the plunger stop, the flywheel doesn't tear your gearbox all apart. But when the plunger does hit the plunger stop or a big wad, this is supposed to slip so it doesn't injure anything or mechanical injuries inside the gearbox. If you have any questions, you can give us a call at 607-846-5959. Thank you.